raised like that. I don't go. I'm not going about my mom. I'm not going. So tell your dad's mama dig her ass up and post a picture.
50 Cent posted a single photograph of Tiny Harris and set the entire internet ablaze. But the remark he made about King Harris afterward, specifically regarding who his real father is, caught the entire industry off guard. And once you understand what has truly been unfolding inside this marriage for years, you will realize why this conflict runs far deeper than any Verzuz battle. This is the story of the beef, the history, and the bombshell 50 Cent dropped. We need to go back to the very beginning, because this is not a story that was born in February 2026. This story has been simmering for close to 2 decades. The only reason it finally erupted the way it did is because one man, Curtis James Jackson III, known to the world as 50 Cent, decided he was finished with subtlety and went straight for the jugular. The animosity between 50 Cent and T.I. traces all the way back to the mid-2000s, when both men were operating at the very peak of the rap industry. 50 Cent was running G-Unit like a legitimate enterprise, selling millions of records and commanding his lane in a manner that very few artists had ever achieved. At the same time, T.I., born Clifford Joseph Harris Jr. in Atlanta, Georgia, was declaring to the entire world that he was the king of the South. And truthfully, his music made that claim very difficult to dispute. These were 2 of the most dominant names in rap. And whenever you place 2 individuals of that caliber in proximity, some degree of friction is inevitable. In those early years, the tension remained beneath the surface. Subtle jabs exchanged in interviews, a competitive energy that never quite escalated into open confrontation. But by 2007 and 2008, things took a far more serious turn when 50 Cent began publicly referencing T.I.'s legal troubles and asking the kind of question that can follow a man in hip-hop for the rest of his career. He was essentially suggesting that the King of the South had been cooperating with federal authorities. Here is what actually transpired. In October 2007, T.I. was arrested in Atlanta during a sting operation conducted by the ATF, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. He had attempted to purchase 3 machine guns and 2 silencers through a bodyguard who was secretly cooperating with the government. These were extremely serious federal charges, the kind that could send a man away for a very long time. Each charge alone carried a potential sentence of 10 years in prison and a fine of $250,000. So when the judge handed down the sentence in March 2009 and T.I. received only 1 year and 1 day, people within the rap community began doing the math, and the numbers were not adding up. 50 Cent was not about to let that slide. On G-Unit's 2008 album titled TOS, which stands for Terminate on Sight, 50 released a track called You So Tough, containing a lyric that the entire industry took notice of. I got the best lawyers money can buy. They said it would have got me 10 or maybe 9. I said, well, how do you explain how homie breathe? So keep your mouth shut or you eat the cheese. You so tough. When pressed in interviews about whether that line was directed at T.I., 50 initially played it cool.
Life situations to create something that's entertaining without being specific. That's entertainment to me. Like if I had an issue, when have you known me to be indirect with an issue?
You're pretty direct.
Right, so if I had a problem with any artist, trust me, they would know.
But then, just moments later, he essentially confirmed it.
Bad T.I.
Absolutely, for the public to decide.
Now, T.I. has always maintained that he never informed on anyone. He stated that everything he did was personal, that he was seeking justice for his best friend, Phil Ant Johnson, who was shot and killed in Cincinnati in 2006. He completed over 1,000 hours of community service, traveled to 25 different states, and spoke to thousands of young people as part of the agreement he reached with the courts. But in hip-hop, the accusation of snitching travels 10 times faster than any explanation ever will. After all of that, the beef went dormant for a period. It resurfaced briefly in 2020 when T.I. made comments regarding rapper King Von's death in Atlanta that 50 Cent perceived as disrespectful to a grieving community. But even then, it did not fully detonate. That did not happen until 2026. And it did not happen until a conversation about Verzuz transformed into something deeply personal very quickly. In early February 2026, T.I. appeared on the Nightcap podcast with Shannon Sharpe and Chad Johnson and recounted how he and 50 Cent had been in Los Angeles together, working on television projects. During that time, they apparently discussed doing a versus battle to celebrate each other's music. According to T.I., they reached an agreement. But when T.I. went public with it, 50 Cent suddenly acted as though he had no knowledge of any such conversation. "I said I wanted 50. That's what I said. He don't want no smoke though. I called my man, he don't want no smoke. He ducking smoke. It's cool." And on a separate occasion, T.I. elaborated further.
50, that's what I said. He don't want no smoke though. Oh, Lord. I called my man that. He don't want no smoke. He ducking smoke. It's cool.
Now, most people would have expected 50 Cent to respond with a diss track, or at the very least come back with some bars. Instead, 50 Cent took an entirely different approach, one that a significant number of people felt crossed a clear line. He took to Instagram and posted an unflattering photograph of T.I.'s wife, Tamika "Tiny" Harris, accompanied by a caption that essentially told T.I. to keep his name out of his mouth. It was not a shot at T.I. the rapper. It was not a shot at his catalog or his legacy. It was a shot at his wife. That is the moment everything changed. Because right there, 50 Cent did not simply add fuel to a rap beef. He dragged a woman into the center of a conflict she had absolutely no involvement in. A woman who had already endured more than most people will ever know about. And that woman happened to have a 21-year-old son named King who was watching every single move being made on that platform. This was no longer about music. This was about family. And as you are about to discover, when you target this particular family, you are pulling on a thread with an enormous amount of weight attached to the other end. Tiny Harris, the marriage, the rumors, and the secrets. To truly understand why 50 Cent's attack on Tiny struck such a nerve, and why King Harris reacted the way he did, you have to know who Tamika "Tiny" Harris actually is. And you need to understand what that marriage has been quietly carrying behind closed doors for a very long time. A great many people think of Tiny as simply T.I.'s wife, but that characterization is a genuine disservice. She was well established in the music industry before T.I. had even appeared on the radar. Born Tamika Diane Cottle on July 14, 1975, in College Park, Georgia, she rose to prominence as a member of the R&B group Xscape in the early 1990s, a group that was instrumental in shaping the sound of that entire era. Beyond performing, she was writing songs that other artists were building entire careers upon. She co-wrote No Scrubs for TLC and contributed to records for Destiny's Child, assembling a body of work that most people in the music industry would be proud to call their entire career. Before T.I., Tiny's personal life was relatively unremarkable. She was in a relationship with a man named Zonnie Zebo Pullins for approximately 6 years beginning in 1992. Together they had a daughter named Zanique, born in 1996, who would later become a singer herself with the group OMG Girls. There is also the account Tiny shared on their reality show regarding a brief, close connection with Tupac Shakur in 1994, which she said nearly became romantic but ultimately did not. Tupac passed away in 1996, not long afterward. Beyond those two relationships, there is nothing in her history that points to any real controversy. She met T.I. in 2001 through the music industry, as Xscape had connections to his label, Grand Hustle Records. Initially, Tiny was not interested whatsoever. She reportedly turned T.I. down and stood him up on more than one occasion before finally giving him a genuine chance. By the mid-2000s, they were fully committed to each other, and they married in a quiet courthouse ceremony in Miami Beach on July 30, 2010, later celebrating in Atlanta and Las Vegas. Together they had 3 children: King, born in 2004, Major, born in 2008, and Eris, born in 2016. They also endured the devastating loss of a stillbirth in 2007. When you include T.I.'s children from previous relationships and Tiny's daughter Zanique, they were raising a blended family of 7 children together. That marriage faced genuine trials from the very outset. Just months after the wedding, T.I. was arrested again on drug charges while still on probation and was required to serve additional time. Tiny stood beside him through every moment of it. They eventually transformed their lives into a VH1 reality series titled T.I. and Tiny, The Family Hustle, which aired from 2011 to 2017 and allowed the entire country to witness their world, both the triumphs and the hardships. But behind the scenes, fractures were forming. In 2014, T.I. became involved in a physical altercation with boxer Floyd Mayweather Jr. at a restaurant in Las Vegas, following rumors that Mayweather had been developing an inappropriately close relationship with Tiny. The entire incident was captured on video. Both Tiny and Mayweather denied that anything occurred between them. Mayweather stated that he had known Tiny for years. Well before she was with T.I., Tiny herself addressed the matter in a 2018 interview on Candy Coated Nights, stating that she did not physically cheat on T.I. but acknowledging that Mayweather had been flirting with her and that she had been in a place within her marriage where she was not receiving the attention she needed.
We were moving around in LA, man, selling some TV shows while we were around each other, man, you know what I mean? I said, "Hey, what you think about that?" Like, "You want to do that?" I said, "Yes." He was like, all right, cool. So shit. And I told him, I said, "Well, I'm gonna jump out there first, and then you just gonna jump out there and we'll line it up." Going on. Then that's what it was about. And now I question your care.
In her own words, "I didn't really cheat. I didn't have any. He flirted with me. Everybody needs a little attention, especially if she ain't getting it." That statement alone reveals a great deal about where the marriage stood during that period. The most significant crisis arrived in December 2016. On December 7th of that year, Tiny filed for divorce in Henry County, Georgia, citing irreconcilable differences and requesting primary custody of their children. Court documents confirmed the filing was genuine. She filed again in April 2017 after the initial hearing collapsed because T.I. had not been properly served with the paperwork. When Tiny later spoke about the decision, she was unequivocal about what drove her to that point. In a 2019 appearance, she described the decision as being rooted in self-respect, stating that she had been enduring years of infidelity, dishonesty, and disrespect. By the summer of 2017, they stepped back from the brink and chose to remain together. T.I. spoke about how Tiny was his best friend and said he simply could not discard that. The final season of their show documented how close they came to the end and the effort it took to rebuild their foundation. And rebuild they did. In 2025, they celebrated 15 years of marriage with a trip to Thailand, sharing footage from a yacht and writing captions for one another that made it unmistakably clear these were two people who had genuinely fought to preserve their relationship and emerged on the other side. T.I. called her the love of his life, and she spoke about how much he had evolved in the way he loves her over 24 years. Then, in early 2026, they attended the Grammy Awards together, impeccably dressed and presenting themselves as an entirely united front. And then 50 Cent posted that photograph. Now, the rumors that began circulating in the aftermath, including the suggestion from 50 Cent that King Harris might not even be T.I.'s biological son, none of that is substantiated by any verified facts or documented evidence. What the record clearly shows is that King was born in 2004, 3 years into T.I. and Tiny's relationship, and both of his parents have always raised him and acknowledged him as their son. The paternity insinuation is simply 50 Cent employing the strategy he has always employed, identifying the most painful possible angle of attack and deploying it publicly to observe the fallout. Because on top of all the marital turbulence, this family was also contending with something far more serious than a rap feud. Beginning in January 2021, more than a dozen women came forward with grave allegations against T.I. and Tiny together, claiming they had been drugged, sexually assaulted, held against their will, and trafficked over a period stretching from 2005 to 2018. The couple denied every single allegation and characterized the entire matter as a coordinated effort to extort money from them. Their attorney, Steve Sado, called it a sordid shakedown campaign and maintained that none of it had merit. Their VH1 show was suspended while the network conducted its own review. The LAPD opened a full investigation in May 2021, but by September of that year, the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office announced they would not be filing any charges, as the statute of limitations on the oldest cases had expired. No charges materialized from Georgia either. In January 2024, one of the accusers, an Air Force veteran proceeding under the name Jane Doe, filed a civil lawsuit invoking a California law that permits plaintiffs to bring cases beyond the standard deadline if they can demonstrate the existence of a cover-up. T.I. and Tiny moved to have the case dismissed. In August 2024, a federal judge granted the dismissal, though the plaintiff was given the opportunity to refile with additional specifics. No charges, no convictions. But the cloud from all of it never fully dissipated. So when 50 Cent chose to post Tiny's photograph and make her the subject of ridicule, he was not merely mocking a rapper he had a grudge against over a Versus negotiation. He was weaponizing a woman's image, a woman who had already navigated near divorces, infidelity allegations, and a federal investigation, and he was doing it before millions of people as though it meant nothing. That is what ignited everything that followed. And that is precisely why King Harris did not respond with measured composure. He came out swinging with every weapon at his disposal. King Harris goes to war. The internet divides. And 50 Cent deletes everything. The moment King Harris saw that photograph of his mother displayed on 50 Cent's Instagram page, something shifted inside him, and it was not returning to a quiet place. He is 21 years old, and he has existed in the public eye for his entire life, growing up as the son of two famous individuals with cameras perpetually nearby. He has watched his mother discussed, speculated about, and dragged through gossip outlets since he was old enough to navigate a phone screen. And now the same man his father had been sparring with for weeks had posted her image on the internet, reducing her to a punchline in a rap dispute. What happened next was not a calculated public relations maneuver. It was not a meticulously written diss track backed by a record label. King Harris went directly to Instagram stories and released everything in a raw, unfiltered manner that the entire internet witnessed unfold in real time. And he ventured into territory that most people within hip-hop recognize as a line one simply does not cross. He invoked 50 Cent's late mother, Sabrina Jackson, who was murdered in 1983 when 50 was only 8 years old. King stated that if 50 Cent wanted to circulate photographs of people's mothers, he was prepared to reciprocate. He even shared what appeared to be an image of her gravesite.
I want to say something about my mama. Your mama, go dig her up. Go dig her up. You can post a picture of your mama. She pay respect. Stop playing with my
50
mama.
Cent's response to all of this, remaining entirely consistent with his established persona, was a Pepe the Frog meme with "Oh" written across it and a message instructing King to stay out of grown men's affairs. King did not stay out of it. On February 23rd, he continued pressing forward, characterizing 50 as an attention seeker who had been deploying the same tactics for nearly 3 decades. He referenced the fact that 50 survived being shot 9 times in the year 2000, an event around which 50 has constructed a substantial portion of his own narrative, and argued that surviving something of that magnitude and still conducting oneself the way 50 does was not actually worthy of admiration. He highlighted how 50's 2007 album Curtis was outsold by Kanye West's Graduation in one of the most widely discussed album release competitions in rap history. He posted archival photographs of 50 Cent at a radio station holding oversized novelty items. He targeted 50's son Sire, sharing a photograph of the two of them together. He tagged Diddy, Rick Ross, Ashanti, and other prominent figures in his posts to ensure the entire affair was as expansive and public as possible. T.I. stood firmly behind his son, and then escalated matters on his own. On February 23rd, T.I. released a diss track titled "The Right One," targeting 50 as someone who talks a formidable game but avoids genuine competition, someone who struggles to maintain relationships with women because of deep, unresolved pain stemming from losing his mother at such a young age. He also previewed another track titled "War," produced by DJ Tump, which was slated to appear on his final album, Kill the King. T.I. additionally released a track called "What Bully," and paired it with the notorious photograph of 50 Cent appearing extremely gaunt during his dramatic weight loss for the 2011 film All Things Fall Apart, an image that had been a source of embarrassment for 50 for years. T.I.'s older son, Domani, also entered the fray, releasing his own diss record that sampled Outkast's classic Ms. Jackson, a selection that, given the circumstances, was a pointed and entirely deliberate choice. Then, on February 24th, King Harris dropped his own diss track titled Made Man. A 21-year-old who had spent his entire life hearing people dismiss him as a Nepo baby, someone who possesses a platform solely because of his parents, was now standing directly in the ring with one of the most seasoned and battle-tested provocateurs the rap industry has ever produced. Throughout all of this, 50 Cent barely acknowledged the music. Instead, he continued doing something far more calculated. He promoted his Broadway production, a revival of August Wilson's play Joe Turner's Come and Gone, scheduled to open on April 25, 2026, with a caption that read, "Opening night, April 25th. No rappers. No bad BBLs. No little albino kids. Just sold out Broadway." Virtually everyone who read that understood the albino kids reference as a direct attack on one of T.I. and Tiny's children who has albinism, a condition that affects skin and hair pigmentation. That post was subsequently deleted. Most of the posts he published in connection to this feud were eventually deleted. But the move that truly cost 50 whatever remaining goodwill he possessed came when he targeted someone no one anticipated him going near. Tina Knowles, Beyoncé's mother, had reposted an appreciative video of Tiny Harris as a quiet gesture of support, writing a caption about what authentic feminine energy looks like. Tiny expressed her gratitude in the comments. 50 Cent responded by posting a photograph of Tina Knowles with a caption ridiculing the notion of grandmothers involving themselves in feuds. He followed that with a gif of Solange Knowles, Beyoncé's sister, removing her earrings, a transparent reference to the infamous 2014 elevator altercation she had with Jay-Z. He captioned it as a warning about killers. Beyoncé's fan base, known as the Bayhive, descended upon him immediately and with the kind of ferocity that only that particular community of fans can generate. The backlash was so overwhelming and so swift that by February 25th 50 Cent had deleted every single post he had made regarding the entire feud. Consider the significance of that for a moment. The man who spent 2 decades never retreating from anyone. The man who outlasted Ja Rule, Rick Ross, and Diddy in public confrontations. He quietly erased everything and went silent. The situation became so viral and so all-consuming that actual police departments were reportedly receiving calls about it. Not because anyone was in physical danger, but simply because people were so deeply invested in the drama that they apparently felt law enforcement needed to be made aware. That single detail communicates everything about how completely this story consumed the internet. Public opinion remains divided directly down the middle. One side maintains that 50 Cent initiated the entire conflict by bringing Tiny into a dispute she had no part in, and that everything King did afterward was simply a son defending his mother. Plain and simple. Nothing further to discuss. The other side argues that King went too far by targeting the memory of 50's murdered mother, and that regardless of what 50 did first, there are certain things in life one simply does not invoke. Both arguments carry genuine weight, and neither side is entirely wrong. What is difficult to dispute, however, is the broader picture. 50 Cent has been operating from the same playbook for more than 2 decades. He provokes. He posts something designed to get under someone's skin, and then he waits for the emotional reaction. The more emotional the response, the more the internet decides he won the entire exchange, regardless of who actually said the more intelligent or impactful things. That formula succeeded against Ja Rule. It succeeded against Rick Ross. It succeeded against a lengthy roster of individuals who allowed him to pull them out of character. The question this particular situation is raising is whether that same formula still functions when the person firing back is not the original opponent, but a 21-year-old son who is willing to venture into territory his father never would have entered. When 50 Cent went after Tiny, he did not discover a vulnerability in the T.I. camp the way he anticipated. He found the most fiercely protected person in the building. What are your thoughts on this situation? Share your perspective in the comments section below. And be sure to click on one of the cards on your screen to watch more content like this. See you in the next one.